Hello and welcome to the number one championship podcast, the second tier. I'm Brian Dilks and just the 38 goals for us this weekend then. What a weekend of championship action because Burnley smashed Cardiff, Sunderland thumped Wednesday and a crazy game at Ashton Gate. We've got all that plus a shithousing at Derby, a player scoring with his knob and Preston attempt to have a different manager for every game of the season. All that's to come because this is the second tier. And as always, I'm joined by the Russell Slade to my Mark Robbins. It's Justin Peach.
Good day to you, Ryan.
Big thanks to Sky Blue Cal on our Patreon for suggesting that intro. Justin, how's it going? Have you had any more rotisserie chicken-inspired dreams?
I haven't, but genuinely, I had a dream last night that I was managing Sheffield United. No idea why.
Oh.
And of course, usually we'd have a little chat before an episode. Did not tell you about this because I've literally just remembered it this very second.
Okay.
I was in full Blaze tracksuit, managing Sheffield United, and trying to remove the legacy that is Chris Wilder. Nothing personal, but just trying to build one of my own, I think.
Fine. Kind of like Brian Clough replacing Don Revie kind of scenario.
Yes.
I find dream chat very boring, but I will just say very quickly, I had a dream that I was playing for Real Madrid, bizarrely, and then we were at an away game and I got left at the stadium and no one came to pick me up. It was very much a full anxiety dream for me.
A certain former Preston caretaker manager may feel that same way today or this weekend.
Oh, fine. Okay, yes, I get what you mean. We'll get on to that very shortly, shall we? Justin, we're here to talk about the games from the past weekend in the Championship, and we'll kick things off, shall we, with Burnley, who are top of the league after two games after they smashed Cardiff 5-0. Three-word reviews here from Burnley fans. Nathan says, only second gear. Ollie Turf says, apologies for Parker. Mike says, shit but brilliant. For Cardiff, Spaced Coyote says, utter fucking shit. We had a few like that. And DJ Macca says, Enkelman strikes again. Yeah, it's never a good start to a game, is it, when your goalkeeper drops a classic own goals and gaffes moment in the first 10 minutes. Ethan Horvath letting a back pass run under his foot and into the goal. Good stuff, Justin.
It is lovely. It's peak football that Peter Enkelman won. There'll be people listening and watching on YouTube who have no idea what that reference is about. But that is genuinely I think that is the peak of like goalkeeper gaffes. And even Horvath is pretty much, other than it coming from a back pass, not a throw in. Horvath really has copy and pasted that one. That was a clanger. And I think the most incredible thing, most interesting thing about goalkeepers making mistakes like that is their faces afterwards. It's like all the blood's just been taken away from their face. They are pale. They are in shock. Yeah, it's like they've seen something horrific, but no, they've just committed something, a football atrocity, if you like.
Yeah, it's maybe not an atrocity, that's a bit strong, but it's a very underrated part of football, being able to have the close-up of the goalkeeper's face after he's just committed one of the worst mistakes he'll make in his career. I particularly enjoyed the cartoon character scurry back after it went under his foot. That was good stuff.
I think as well, it's very rare you see that in a stadium. So it's a moment that you really cherish. I think I've only seen it twice in a stadium.
Okay.
Rob Green did it for Norwich against Derby 20-odd years ago, and Chris Wheel did it for Leicester. I've only seen it twice.
Did it for Luton against Derby once as well, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
But he also threw it into the goal as well. But it's very rare you see these. So it's one of those memories that just play in your mind over and over again. And if you see something like it, you will go back to them straight away and you go, oh, I saw Rob Green do this 20 years ago.
Yeah. I suppose you're right.
It's
one of the core memories that you'll have from football, and it's also the last thing Cardiff needed, wasn't it? Because it really left them in the lurch when it happened in the first 10 minutes. A very strange game. This. The headline will be Burnley continue fantastic start to the season, but as far as 5-0s go, it wasn't really a rip snorter, and that's reflected in the XG. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea XG, but I think it kind of tells a story of this game. Burnley won 5-0, but scored 5 goals from an XG of 0.8. Cardiff also had 11 shots to Burnley's 9, which is just quite mad, Justin.
Yeah, but I mean, Burnley didn't create a whole lot of chances. They were once again incredibly clinical, and that was the same against Luton. This is what I was saying in the preview show. I think if Burnley play like they did against Luton, where they're electric on the counter and they take their chances because they've got the quality to do it, then they will sort of waltz to an easy victory, and they did. I know it wasn't really a 5-0 game, but it was a very comfortable one from Burnley's perspective. So I think the quality is showing. One of the supporters said in the 3-word review, not even out of second gear yet, and that's a nice place to be. We saw Leicester didn't really get out of second or third gear for the first 6 months of the season before putting it in reverse briefly before going again. Hopefully that's not the same with Burnley, but it shows that they've got gears to go.
Yeah, I suppose gears to go is one way of looking at it. You've got to say well done because 5-0 is 5-0. You can't really argue with that. It was funny watching this game with the commentator who said almost immediately after Burnley's second goal, how are Burnley 2-0 up? Because Cardiff were much the better team for most of that first half. They hit the post, had a goal disallowed, which was a tight one, but it was correct in the end. They dominated the ball for so much of that first half. The second half, they were woeful and gave the game to Burnley. But overall, you'd say Burnley's man of the match was probably Ethan Horvath because... Burnley scored 5 goals from 4 shots on target. How? How is that possible? And he definitely should have done better for the first 3 goals, maybe the last 2 as well. I think Aaron Ramsey had more of a say in the last 2 goals, giving the ball away for both of them. But I just came away from this game thinking, how have Burnley won that 5-0? And a better team than Cardiff probably could have got a result against Burnley. That's how strange a game it was, I think.
Well, I think I do agree. I think Cardiff were much the better side in the first half. That being said, the teams that Cardiff obviously didn't have the quality to take their chances like Burnley did in the first half. I know the Horvath mistake is a mistake, so you can't really legislate for that. But it's just a telling of quality. And yes, you might be right in that a better team may have got a result here against Burnley, but at the same time, I think Burnley would have gone. The game plan would have been slightly different, I imagine. And also taking the lead in the first half and going 2-0 up in the first half changes your perception of the game as well, because it really was a case of just managing things. Because Cardiff, of all of the ball that they had, didn't really penetrate too often, which is what we're going to be saying about Cardiff a lot, I imagine, until maybe they bolster their attack a little bit more. But I think I disagree to an extent that if there was a better opposition up against Burnley here, then Burnley, they would have got a result against Burnley because they were up against a better opposition on Monday and Burnley / Luton. So I don't think that's necessarily the correct thing.
No, I'm not sure I agree with that because Burnley played very well on Monday. I don't think there's any denying that. This is just a weird game, and I'm going to get my tinfoil hat on here with Burnley because I imagine a lot of neutrals will have watched them against Luton and thought, wow, they're amazing. And then they would have looked at the result against Cardiff and gone, wow, now they've won 5-0 as well. They could end up pissing promotion this season. But what I would tell people is just to hold off for now because, firstly, we are 2 games in. It's something I've been beating quite a lot over the past week and a half. So much can change from this point onwards. You can never judge who's going up this quickly into a season. Secondly, Burnley have got a lot of players who could be on their way out before the window closes. They've lost Wilson Odobert this week. Dara O'Shea looks like he's off to Brentford. Lyle Foster's been linked with a move away. So has James Trafford, Wout Weghorst, probably even more, who I haven't even mentioned. Now, yes, they were very good against Luton, but Scott Parker has always had a good record in the Championship against better teams. With Bournemouth, he only lost 1 against the top 6 that season, and he had a very good record against the better teams in the league with Fulham as well just before that. So the frustration which comes with Scott Parker from his previous spells is when he's up against teams they should be beating. And yes, they thumped Cardiff, but for me, a better team could have got a result because it wasn't the most emphatic of 5-0 wins if such a thing exists. And I suspect we'll see better examples of this in weeks to come because he always had a real problem with breaking down teams who were happy to get a point against them. So ultimately, what I'm saying is it's early doors. I'm not getting carried away with Burnley just yet because, I mean, this game against Cardiff in particular was a proper freak result in my book.
It just wasn't a 5-0 game. I think Burnley fully deserved a 2 or 3-0 win. 5-0 probably flatters them a little bit, mainly because it's quite simply a really, I wouldn't say fortunate, they were just very clinical. And you are right. I think the longer the season goes on, can Burnley continue to put teams away with less than 1 XG? Probably not, because you're asking a lot of your players to be clinical week in, week out. It's a very difficult thing to do. So I think in that essence, it is right to take this with a pinch of salt. But look, they are a couple of games into the season under a new manager with a squad that still needs moulding and evolving and changing. It's going to be a lot of churn. So to score 9 goals in your first 2 games, taking 6 points, you'll take it. You'll take it till the end of August, see where you get. That first international break is as important as any, because it gives those new managers a bit more time with the players without the sole focus on games. So look, all they've got to do is keep on winning and see where they go. So yeah, I do agree to an extent that it's right to be not sceptical, but taking it with a pinch of salt. But I don't think it's overly fair to say that a better team would have beat Burnley today, because, as I say, better team came up against them on Monday and they struggled.
Yeah, but no, Justin, that's not the point I'm making. The point is that...
Yeah, I know what your point is, but you're suggesting that Burnley wouldn't have stepped up their game against a better opposition, which they did on Monday.
No, that's not what I'm suggesting.
I know, but Cardiff controlled large portions of the game, and Burnley didn't have to do much to get out of second gear. They just had to take the chances, and they did that. They didn't have to do a lot to win this game. They still won it.
They still won it because Cardiff's goalkeepers are liquid. That was a big part of this game. And the point I'm making is that the teams who are kind of Cardiff's level, who would be happy to get a point against them, it could have been a completely different result, because if Cardiff had a bit more about them going forwards, then they could have very much taken advantage of Burnley, because they didn't play that well despite winning 5-0. That's the point I'm making. And yes, Burnley will change tact when they're coming up against the better teams in the division, like they did against Luton. But I just think as time goes on, when Burnley... Ultimately, you get more points against the teams who you should be beating when you're a team like Burnley than the teams who are a similar level to you, because Burnley are one of the best teams in the division. So that's where I think they could come a bit unstuck as time goes on. But we'll see. I might be completely wrong. But that's just the thing I would say, why we should approach them with caution for now. One final thing I will say on Burnley is I completely forgot Jay Rodriguez was still there, Justin.
He played relatively well as well.
He did, yeah.
He's a player that I genuinely could place him between he's either 30 years old, or his actual age, whereas around 35 years old, or he could be 40 years old.
Yeah.
He's clearly, for me, he's just one of the three, because he's been around for so long, but also he's been robbed by injuries quite a lot, but also he's been a bit part player at Burnley, so we've not really seen him too often. So yeah, he could easily be 30, 35 or 40 in my head.
Yeah, if you told me he was 28, I'd believe you. If you told me he was 40, I'd believe you. If you told me he was still at Southampton, I'd believe you. If you told me he'd retired, I'd believe you. He's one of those players, isn't he? Cardiff are bottom of the league after this result against Burnley, Justin. They're one of only 3 teams yet to pick up a point this season. Robert Bullitt says his side need transfers before the window closes. Is that what's let them down in these first 2 games, do you think, Justin?
I mean, you described Ethan Hawthorpe as being liquid, so I don't think that helped them particularly against Burnley. That might be a little bit harsh. I do agree with him. They do need transfers, but again, he's asking probably the one of the tightest owners in the Championship for money to bolster a squad. He's not going to get it, because what he's built with the resources he's got so far has been okay. That being said, they're controlling games without really doing anything. I don't think that's down to the quality of play. I think that's down to system issues. That was the same problem last season. If they're having the same problems they did last season as they are now, then I don't think that's down to personnel. I think that's down to Bullitt needing to change tack. I'm not a A-grade coach. I can't tell him what he needs to do with his side, but if he's experiencing the same issues that he did last season in terms of creating from open play, then maybe the finger needs to be pointed a little bit more to Bullitt and not necessarily the players that he's got at his disposal.
Yeah, I would say it's more of a 50-50 kind of job.
It's
because,
both,
Cardiff fans were giving their new squad a lot of hype just before the season started, but apparently it's now not good enough to many Cardiff fans. That's just me being cynical, though. I am a bit worried about Cardiff, because they've conceded 20 goals in the last 6 Championship games now, if you include the back end of last season. One player I'd be particularly concerned about is Demetrius Gautas, who was phenomenal for Cardiff last season, but he's looked really poor in these first 2 games. And I mean, we talk about how bolstered Cardiff squad had been over the summer, but they've still got Callum O'Dowda at left back when he's a winger. How has that problem not been addressed? And as we've said, Ethan Horvath is essentially a liquid. I don't rate him at all. I've always said that, even before his disaster class against Burnley. And the other thing is, Cardiff's bench is really poor. There is not much depth there for a team who has fairly lofty aspirations. They were expected to improve on what they did last season. But I think Bullitt has to take blame as well. There does seem to be a bit of an identity crisis there right now, because they've always been a side who are happy not to have the ball, yet they've had more possession in the last 2 games and not scored a single goal. Mm-hmm. So I don't think they really know what to do with the ball when they've got it, Justin.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they're a side that probably needs to be a little bit more direct as opposed to controlling possession. I don't think they have enough technicians to control possession. That's probably being maybe a little bit harsh on the squad, but it just seems like the personnel that they've got is better made to play a little bit more direct. I'm not talking sort of route one direct. I'm talking sort of play at a fast pace, relinquish the ball a little bit, get the ball into wide areas and exploit space in behind opposition. That's where I'm sort of coming from in terms of directness, because I just feel things are a little too pensive, a little too easy, and they're getting done quickly on counter-attacks as well, which again is down to controlling the ball and not getting into shape quick enough either.
They lost Aaron Ramsey again to injury, by the way, at the end of this game. So
what a surprise.
Yeah, unfortunately, his injury problems haven't gone away since he's returned back to Cardiff. And to make matters worse, with Cardiff having not scored a goal yet this season and lost their first 2 games, they've got the small match of the South Wales Derby next weekend. And Swansea fans must be licking their lips after this result. Justin, let's move to our next game, which takes us to the Stadium of Light. And how things change in a week. 7 days after beating Plymouth 4-0, Sheffield Wednesday lost 4-0 away at Sunderland. I mean, we'll talk about Wednesday in a sec, Justin, but I've got to say, I was so impressed with Sunderland in this one. Were you?
Yeah, they were brilliant. They were brilliant. Almost sort of surprisingly, like they came out quickly. They came out very, very quickly, and I think that's more telling of this sort of exciting, exuberant, no fear element to their young squad that they've got. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of intricacies there. In the sense that Regis Labrie will be working on tactics fairly often and his philosophy fairly often in training, not just selling his team to go out there and get it. But I think that's Sheffield Wednesday blowing Plymouth over last weekend to being blown over themselves this weekend. I think that's more telling to how good Sunderland were as opposed to how poor Sheffield Wednesday were. Don't get me wrong, Wednesday were poor defensively, and we'll get onto that in a moment. But Sunderland really, really, really looked up for this one.
Yeah, they were so good. I was actually quite taken aback by this one because I thought it'd be a fairly even game, but you're right, Sunderland just absolutely blew them out the water. And keep in mind, by the way, this is probably the most astonishing thing about this, is how young this team is. The midfield, Justin, Sunderland's midfield had a average age of 19, because it includes 17-year-old Chris Rigg and 18-year-old Joe Bellingham. Dan Neil is the experienced one of the bunch, and he's 22. It's just mental. But I mean, Joe Bellingham, he's just signed a new contract this week. He was incredible in this game. Absolutely sublime he was. And Chris Rigg, for just being a 17-year-old, someone we've spoken quite a lot about over the past few weeks, he didn't look out of place at all. I think there's also got to be a shout as well for 19-year-old Eliza Mayenda up front, who, I mean, how long have we spoken about Sunderland needing a striker, Justin? And he took his first goal incredibly well, scored another. Could he be the answer to their goal-scoring problems, Justin?
He could be, but you don't want to put everything on a young lad. That being said, Sunderland are putting everything on young lads at the moment. So, who am I to tell them what to do? No, he could be the leading man. I think, me being a little bit cynical, I still want to see a more experienced striker come in through the doors at Stadium of Light, just because I think Christian Speakman, the sporting director, I think has it's not a get out clause if Mayenda bags and bags and bags, but They still haven't replaced Ross Stewart, which I think is a crying shame for the football club. But look, Meander performed incredibly well against Wednesday, against some a relatively experienced back line. So yeah, he could be the answer, but let's not put too much pressure on him just yet. He's a kid.
Yeah, he absolutely is a kid, and I imagine Sunderland will sign a striker before the window closes. But he's shown here what he is capable of, and who knows? Maybe he will be the starting man for them as the season goes on. But this is the Sunderland that we wanted to see. When Regis Labrie came in, or I think Sky were calling him Regis Labris now, which is goes in the face of our pronunciation for the past few weeks. So maybe we'll go.
I wouldn't take our pronunciation as golden. Let's be honest.
Absolutely right. But this is what we want to see with Sunderland, isn't it? And even though they did so poorly in the second half of last season, this squad is incredibly talented. You talk about the young talent, but other players as well. Luke O'Nien, I think, is just a really underrated player. He's known a lot for his antics in other areas, but he's just a really, really good player. Jack Clark, we all know, is very talented. Patrick Roberts looked, if this game is anything to go by, back on form. I thought Dennis Irkin as well was fantastic. So this is what we could have seen with Sunderland towards the end of last season, and that's why Mick Beale, in my book, should be charged with war crimes. I just wouldn't put it all on Mick Beale. Maybe I think Mike Dodds does deserve some of the criticism. Oh, Justin,
as well,
he should be charged as well. Don't worry, I've not forgot about old Doddsy either.
Yeah, okay. It just needs direction, doesn't it? It just needs direction and a manager with an identity and philosophy who's very committed to it. And old Reggie Labris isn't he? Let's be honest, he is if you are ahead of a academy or development at a club like Lorient, who have done very well in bringing players through over the years, then you've got something about you in terms of what you want to achieve. You've got clear philosophy as well. So I think Sunderland just needed someone like that who has a clear vision. So maybe old Reggie was the best solution. But you are right, Mick Beale does deserve some criticism, whether that's whether that's a trial at The Hague or not, I don't know. But look, it's he didn't cover himself in glory. No,
he didn't. I think Christian Speakman, the sporting director there as well, deserves a fair bit of criticism. But even though he's been under pressure at Sunderland, if these first two games are anything to go by, then this could be a bit of a masterstroke by him, because it's certainly been an impressive first two games, and this was just phenomenal from Sunderland. Not so much for Sheffield Wednesday. I just remember Justin being sat here 24 hours ago, 7 days ago, and thinking, wow, Wednesday was so good, and then we get served up this, which was quite the opposite, wasn't it?
Yeah, just a bit. The Rolevolution, I would like to quote you on.
Yeah, the Rolevolution has taken a bit of a blow here, hasn't it?
Yeah, the Rolevolution will not be televised, ladies and gentlemen. I regret to inform you. Public service announcement right there. Yeah, it was a really poor display. Like I said, I think Sunderland came out the traps very quickly, you can't really blame Wednesday to some extent. But if your manager doesn't go in down the tunnel straight after half time, he sat in a dugout with his assistants 2 minutes into half time, just running the rule over what the fuck was going on, pretty much. Then yes, you are in a bit of bother. But I also think defensively, I don't think the fullbacks Max Lowe or Jan Valery covered themselves in any glory whatsoever. Jan Valery for the fourth goal generally just stopped. He just stopped. It's just really poor. He just stopped. If he got taken off as well in the second half, but it was just an appalling display at times defensively from Wednesday. A breakdown, if you like. The old Gattuso, isn't it? That performance. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Yeah, maybe that'll be something we see with Wednesday all season, and I'd love Danny Rule to drop that at some point this season. Yeah, Josh Windass, I thought had a really poor game. Was at fault for two of the goals. But I mean, nobody for Wednesday really covered themselves in glory. I don't want to be too harsh on them, really, because I think it was just a really bad day at the office, and sometimes these things happen. But at the same time, it was not a good look for Wednesday, especially after being so good this time 7 days ago. I'd just also like to thank Wednesday for doing this just days after I put out a YouTube video called Danny Rule, the next elite coach in football. which is a superb timing.
The
Cheers,
second tier
Wednesday.
curse strikes
Second
again.
tier curse. But yeah, maybe we'll get more of an idea about what this Wednesday side are about as the season goes on. But, sometimes these setbacks happen. Let's go to the game of the weekend, Justin. Bristol City 4, Millwall 3. Three-word reviews here from Bristol City fans. Cloudgazer says, still recovering now. And Bristol City's official Twitter has got involved here. They say, Scott Edward Twine. Bristol City 2-0 up, seemingly cruising, and then Millwall out of nowhere scored 3 in 13 minutes to make it 3-2. Bristol City then get an equaliser in the 78th minute before Scott Twine scores the winner in the 88th minute. Just a beautiful game, Peachy.
Beautiful chaos. This is what the Championship's all about. It is end-to-end, with some games I should add. It is end-to-end, it is chaotic, it is goal after goal after goal, it is sexy football, it is Route 1 at times, it's lovely. And yeah, it was just an incredible spectacle. Some of the goals on display were just brilliant. Duncan Watmore's was fantastic. Millwall's third, also the Maleu goal as well. Yeah, it was just a wonderful display of goal scoring.
Yeah, both teams played really well. Which is not something that you get to see very often in the Championship. It's a shame, really, that one of them had to lose because they both gave everything. The football was excellent. Bristol City's third goal was my goal of the weekend. Honestly, it was just such silky, beautiful football. We also had one of the worst handball decisions you'll ever see. Don't know how that was given at all because it's not even hit his arm, firstly. Let alone whether it was too close or whether there was any unnatural position involved.
I just want to point out as well that the EFL, the PGMOL, the PGMOL put out the new ruling for handballs in that it's not going to be as harsh.
I think I don't. Does that include not even hitting the arm?
Yeah. So. It's an interesting one. It'd be good to get a little bit of insight from them on that and why it was given, because I think you can be unsighted. I think that's the other thing. But if you're not sure, let's not give it.
Yeah, I have no idea what the referee's seen for that one, but it was just an epic game. Let's not take anything away. You can only praise both teams when you get served up something as delicious as this. Justin, if you check my vibe levels very quickly, you'll see I'm getting really good ones about Bristol City. I'm really liking what's happening there so far this summer. Are your vibe levels the same with them?
I think they were. My levels are. My enthusiasm on Bristol City was high. Now you've called it vibes. They've dropped a little bit. I think a 30-year-old man saying vibe levels is somewhat unsettling for me. But
We're still young.
Yeah, okay. Not as young as the Sunderland squad. And if you're in that age category, you can say vibes. But okay, I don't think we can. But I'm enthusiastic about Bristol City. I really am. I think what was impressed me about this game is, as I say, the standard of the goals. But they've got a team packed full of young players, hungry, determined in a system that's trying to get the best out of them. You look at Sinclair Armstrong. Not only was he a nuisance, but he was composed as well. He took his goal brilliantly. Max Bird. Oh my God, Max Bird! Come on!
Performance of the weekend for me. He was amazing.
Yeah, brilliant. I know Scott Twine will get a lot. The Ashton Gate chants for Scott Twine at the end of the game was just ridiculous. It was like a concert venue. But Max Bird genuinely should get the plaudits here because he was so imperative in the build-up for the first two goals. Ran the game at times as well. Just one of the signs of the summer. I know it was signed in January, but one of the incomings of the summer, shall we say?
Yeah. He was amazing. But I'm just looking at this Bristol City team and I think they are going to be really fun to watch this season. Some of that football was exceptional against Millwall, as we've alluded to. But loads of really likeable players. You've already mentioned Max Bird. I thought Jason Knight and Joe Williams, they provide so much legs and energy in the middle of the park. Fali Mayulu, we were just alluding to this last week. He's giving me Tammy Abraham vibes. I really, really like the look of him. He's scored 2 goals as well so far. And Scott Twine, one of the most likeable players in the whole of the Championship, isn't he? Because we know what he's capable of. And I'm quite enjoying his rise up again after a tough 2 or 3 years. But look, Liam Manning, excellent football. We know what he can do, and it's a really exciting project that's building there with him in charge, and that's why we have for many weeks been tipping them as a bit of a dark horse, haven't we, Justin? Because they look like they've got all the potential to really cause plenty of teams problems this season, and maybe go a step further than what we've seen in previous years. Millwall have now scored 5 goals in their opening 2 games and have 0 points.
It's not very Millwall, is it?
No, it's really not. And Justin, we weren't feeling too positive about Millwall at the start of the season, but it's hard to deny they have been brutally unlucky so far, aren't they?
They really have, and I think Neil Harris has been incredibly unfortunate. I know we're not, as big a fans of him as we are with other managers in the league, but I think he's speaking very passionately and to the point, which is a huge positive, because he's quite right to call out some of the defending for the goals against Bristol City. He's disappointed in the conceding from crosses, etc. But he's also he's very much pointing the finger at the board, saying, "I need players. I need players." He's blaming squad depth and a lack of signings, and I agree that plays a part. It really does. And like I said, you're incredibly unlucky if some of the goals you concede in the first game of the season, where it's you concede from a corner, directly from a corner, a free kick and a deflected cross or shot, and then here you get it's sort of undone a little bit by some really liquid football from Bristol City while scoring 3 goals away from home. You expect to take something, you don't. So yes, it's incredibly unfortunate for Neil Harris, but he's just got to wait till signings come through the door. Whether that happens or not, who knows? They're missing Tanganga a little bit as well, which is an issue, but he needs players.
Yeah, I've despite them needing players, I've been somewhat impressed with them despite the 2 losses. Because look, they lost to 3 freak goals against Watford and gave Bristol City a really good game. It's strange, really, because looking at this Millwall team at the start of the season, you would have definitely said they are much better at the back than they are defensively. Yet here they are, they've scored 5 goals in 2 games and been conceding goals for fun. It is strange for a Neil Harris side, and I think he even said that after this loss to Bristol City. One concern we raised before the season started was the lack of width, but so far, 19-year-old Romain Essa has been sublime. He looks like he's really stepping up this season. Duncan Watmore on the other wing has scored 3 goals in 2 games. Yeah. So maybe that's not going to be as much of an issue as we thought if these first 2 games are anything to go by with these 2. And then the defence, I suppose they have been unlucky because Japhet Tanganga has been suspended for 3 games after a red card on the final day of last season. So that's why he's not been available. So maybe when he's back, Millwall will suddenly have a resurgence in form. Who knows? But yeah, it's a bit strange analysing Millwall so far, because despite them being on 0 points, I think they've actually done all right and have just been very, very unlucky. So something to take away for Millwall fans, I suppose, there. Justin, just before we have a quick break, it's now time for us to check out how our second-tier multiple with SBK got on, which included our game of the week, as well as Justin and I's 2 bankers from Friday. This weekend, we had West Brom double chance against Leeds, i.e. them not to lose. So good start with that one, yes. Burnley to win, yes. Middlesbrough to win, bollocks. So 2 weeks in a row, we've been one off, which is a massive shame. But keep the faith, people. We will get it right sooner rather than later. And we'll be back with another multiple in this coming Friday's preview show with SBK. Justin, let's have a quick break. After that, we'll talk about some more games from the Championship across this weekend. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. Let's go through some more games from the weekend then. And Preston's start to the season can't have got much worse. South they lost 3-0 away at Swansea. Of course, Ryan Lowe departed after their first game of the season, where they lost to Sheffield United. And now the caretaker manager, Mike Marsh, has left after this game as well. Preston say it's because he doesn't want to apply for the job on a permanent basis. It means they're on course to have a new manager for every game of this season, which would be great. I'd love to see how that played out, Justin. What is going on here? What on earth is happening at Preston?
Yeah, what is happening? It's quite incredible. No one fancies it. It was a performance so poor, it made the caretaker manager decide to walk home instead of getting the bus back with the team. It was quite astonishing, really. Honestly, it's so unprecedented. It's so unprecedented. And this astonishing change of direction and the impact it's going to have on morale at the club You know, I've seen so much negativity, rightly so, from Preston supporters on social media. You know, a club being this slow so early, it's a very dangerous precedent for the season. Leadership's got to be shown from the very top. You can't hide behind the players in their post-match interviews. You've got to come out and speak publicly, because this is a worrying situation.
Yeah, it's one of the most farcical starts to a season I can ever remember for a club. And we've got to remember in all this is Preston, a club renowned for being pragmatic, maybe a bit too pragmatic for their own good at times. But it's not ideal when your manager is telling the club he wants to go after one game, as has been reported. But there must have been some foresight that it might happen in the first place. And then when your caretaker goes as well after one game, it's just laughable. This whole thing is just shaping up to be a big, big mess, isn't it? And they need to get control, because you are absolutely right, Justin. If they don't get control of this situation, it could evolve into a real dumpster fire. And while at the moment I'm not at the stage where I'm thinking Preston are in serious danger of going down, or even at the stage where they may be involved in a relegation battle, if they don't get this right in the next week and a bit, things could definitely evolve, couldn't they?
This is what I said last week. The next 2 weeks shape the club's season. Absolutely no doubt about it. Not only have they got to get the appointment right, but they've got to hold the nerve with recruitment and continue to recruit. They also got to convince a manager to come in who's going to work with the players that they've got at the club at the moment, and not have a lot of time to go, look, I need this player, this player. It's crazy. It's absolutely bonkers. Because you as I say, like, you're expecting a manager to come in and assess his squad while the transfer window is on its way out, if you like. It's closing soon. It's just not a great set of circumstances. And I know I'm underselling it. I'm stating the obvious. But other than saying several swear words and how much of a shit show this is, there's really no other way to describe it. It is an astonishing situation to be in. As you say, the lack of foresight the club had with Ryan Lowe. Who would have known that? Would they have known that? Who knows? It's just so hard to decipher. What's what is here. It's bonkers.
Yeah, I wonder how we're going to look back on this stage of the season when it comes to an end, and what sort of situation Preston are in, because this could really be a telling part of their season, couldn't it? Go back to the game. I don't think Preston actually played too badly. They had some really good chances, perhaps a bit unlucky not to get a penalty when it was 1-0 still as well. But as soon as the second goal went in, midway through the second half, they pretty much folded and gave up, didn't they, Justin?
Well, it's that reaction, isn't it? That's what you need leadership for in your team. It's why you need a manager there who's going to, pick you up when you need it, give you a bollock when you need it, etc. Organise you when you need it. That's why you need a leader in the midst. And maybe Mike Marshall's like, okay, this is not quite right for me to get going with it. So yeah, this is the situation Preston are in. They're lacking leaders at the moment throughout the club. Alan Brown left. He was a big character in the dressing room for the football club for a long time on the pitch. No manager in charge. Peter Ridsdale's done a lot of talking in the radio this past week, but we need to see a little bit more through the club as well. They need leaders everywhere. I know I've brought it back to sort of the situation that they've got, but it's quite telling that they lack that on the pitch as well.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all, Justin. I think going to Swansea, though, this was a great win for them. And I'll tell you what, I really like Swansea, Justin. I haven't got massive expectations for them this season, but I think they've got some excited players. And they're trying to play nice football under Luke Williams, aren't they? We saw some good examples of that in this game, didn't we?
We did. It was a good performance, very impressive. Jean Verpotnik really impressive when he came on. So did Liam Collins starting the game, linked the play up brilliantly. Both of them did. Ji-sung Yuma as well was a nuisance throughout. The quality of movement for the goals was brilliant. It was just a very sort of controlled, comfortable display from the Swans, and we saw that there. Obviously, I think this team's got gears to go, but they're also going to have setbacks. But I think if this performance is anything to go by, when it's going well, it looks nice and tidy, and I think that's the key thing you can take from this game for Swansea.
Yeah, I've mentioned him a few times over recent weeks, but Ronald on the wing for Swansea, he's quickly becoming one of my favourite players in the league. I just think he's absolutely thrilling. He's turning out to be a real good find for Swansea. And then new signing Gonzalo Franco looks a nice, classy player in the centre of the park too. They've just got some really, really good players in that starting 11. I continue to be a bit worried about the squad depth in this team. I think that's something they've definitely got to address before the window closes. But as far as that starting 11 goes, I think it's like a top half 11, maybe even a playoff flirtation kind of level of 11. It's just, as I say, when you've got a 46 game season, squad depth just ends up being so important when injuries start piling up. So, yeah, hopefully something they can address. I would say a top half finish and maybe a win in next week's South Wales derby. That'd be a great season for Swansea, wouldn't it? So I think that's what they've got to aim for. And if that does happen, then that can be put down as a very good progressive season for the Swans. Just a quick mention for something that Swansea fan Luke brought to my attention this week, by the way. So Swansea have a player called Nathan Joe Aon. I don't know if I've pronounced that right, so apologies if I haven't. But he somewhat recently changed his allegiances from the Netherlands to Indonesia. Bear with me, Justin. And it's meant he's kind of like a national hero now in Indonesia, because I assume he must be one of their best players. I don't know many Indonesian players, but I'm going to assume he's quite good by their standards. Anyway, it's meant Swansea social media has now taken a big boost as a result, because the average Swansea Instagram post gets around 6,000 likes. This week, they put a picture of Nathan up. They got more than 500,000 likes. That's ridiculous, isn't it? Swansea are stat padding their social media reports by just putting pictures of him up. It's amazing. But yeah, really good stuff. I just like little quirky things like that. Let's move on. On Friday night, there was another goal fest as Coventry beat Oxford 3-2, thanks to a 95th minute winner from Haji Right. 3-word reviews from Coventry fans. Sky Blue Cal on our Patreon says Haji Right heroics. Matt says attacking vibes only. Pete says don't leave early. For Oxford, Paul says late gut punch. And another game with loads of excitement, Justin. We had goals, we had an Oxford player trying to take a Coventry player's head off, and a goal scored with a knob. Great stuff.
Yeah, it had everything it needed in a championship game on a Friday night as well. Under the lights, it's beautiful. It was an end to end. I think it was such a spectacle, and again, exactly the sort of spectacle you need when you're competing with a Premier League game that was incredibly dull. So, full credit to Coventry City and Oxford for outperforming the financial might and power of the top flight. But yeah, wonderful game. And as you say, I think that the key point we sort of want to bring on is Mark Harris scoring with his penis. Chopper Harris, as I like to call him.
Chopper Harris. It gives that a whole new meaning now. Yeah. It's a lost art, scoring with your cock. I think Darren Bent once did it.
Darren Bent's done it. Yeah.
His celebration was him like holding his ghoulies afterwards and going because it genuinely did hurt him. But Mark Harris just seemed to just take it.
The adrenaline got him through it.
Yes, the adrenaline throwing through to his... Yeah, never mind. This went under the radar for me, Justin. Prior to this game, Coventry had only won 4 points from their last 9 championship games, if you include last season. So they badly needed to get a win on the board, and it helps when you've got a player like Haji Right, doesn't it? He scored 2 here and was phenomenal. He is some player, isn't he?
He is. Look, he's got the weight of a nation on his shoulders. The US enthusiasm surrounding Haji Wright genuinely is sky high. But you've got a player here who shouldn't be as nimble as he is because of his height. It's the age-old cliche of good feet for a big man. But he's such a graceful finisher, such a clinical finisher as well, that the period of games that he had last season where he genuinely looked laughable in front of goal is actually laughable that he looked so poor. But now he looks like one of the league's best all-round players, and it's good to see. And he's the man for the big moment as well. I think that's the key thing. You're scoring late in a game like that against Oxford. He's done it in the FA Cup quarter-final. He's just the man for the moment, and that's what you need in your squad.
Yeah, he looks completely different from the player we saw 12 months ago, doesn't he? Because when he first came through at Coventry, he looked so short of confidence. He was very mercurial in the way that he would pull something off brilliantly and then absolutely miss a sitter not long afterwards. But now he looks full of confidence and looks like a real talent. I mean, the 2 goals showed what he's all about, because he needed such strength to power home that first goal, and then loads of pace for the second goal, his second goal, which ended up being the winner. And he really could have had a hat-trick as well, actually, if it wasn't for Jamie Cumming in the Oxford goals. So yeah, he looks like he is properly on it in this season, and he could be the one to spearhead Coventry's promotion push, I suppose, Justin.
No, when you've got players of his quality, yes, they will spearhead a promotion push as long as they're fit and in form. Absolutely no shadow about that. But I think the key thing is, I mean, Coventry probably did look like they missed him last week, so him being back, showing his quality, it was there. But I think the key thing you've got with the Mark Robbins' side this season is they do have quality. So if Haji Wright isn't on it, yes, Coventry might suffer, but they've got quality to come in and step in as well. That's the hugely positive thing. They just need to get it up and running, and they will do. They will do. But good performance, good all-round performance, really good going forwards. Haji Wright was a focal point for that.
Yeah, good first win for Coventry. Perhaps they got a bit fortunate with the winner, but they deserved the 3 points based on the quality of chances, and they'll hope that loss to Stoke on the opening day was just a one-off and not a sign that a slow start is beckoning again for them this season. By the way, Coventry's fixtures, they've just played Bristol City and Oxford. Their next 2 games are Bristol City and Oxford. It's because of the League Cup, but the fixture schedule hasn't gone mad. Just a very bizarre quirk this early on in the season, which is just a very strange one. Tough one to take for Oxford, Justin. They worked so hard here, and then to lose the game because of a loose pass, they will have been gutted, weren't they? Because ultimately they're away at one of the toughest teams in the division that they'll have to face this season. Nonetheless, I've got to say, I've been impressed with Oxford in these first 2 games. Justin, have you?
So have I. Yeah, I have. They have impressed me. Don't get me wrong. I think this is a harsh lesson as well to what the Championship brings. You will get punished for the smallest of mistakes more so than you would have in League One, and you've got to be switched on. If you switch off, again, you will get punished, especially coming up against a team of the quality that Coventry have. Not every team's got the US prodigal son in their squad like Haji Wright, but there will be players that will hurt you. So I think it's been a positive first couple of games for Oxford in the sense that they performed very, very well, but it's also a very harsh lesson not to switch off, to stay switched on, to keep going, and really, really tidy things up, because if they do that, they will continue to get results. Solid, organised without the ball, they will threat themselves. I think if they play like that, they will get points away from home, but you cannot switch off.
Yeah, well, in the last few seasons of the Championship, we have had whipping boys, haven't we? Unfortunately, we've always seemed to have one team who was just not at the races compared to the rest of the teams in the division. And I will be honest, I was slightly concerned Oxford maybe that's mainly down to the resources that they have at their disposal. Mm-hmm. But they've given 2 very good Championship sides really good games so far, and I've got to say I've been impressed. They've got some good Championship quality players in there anyway. We've spoken about them already, and if they get the most out of them, then they have a great chance of staying up. And look, it's going to be tough them staying up, but they've given a really good account of themselves so far, and they've shown that they can battle, and they very nearly got a result against away at one of the best teams in the division. If that's anything to go by, then it shows that they're more than up for the fight this season. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of Oxford as the season goes on. On Saturday lunchtime, we saw a proper shithousing at Pride Park as Derby beat Middlesbrough 1-0. 3-word reviews for this one. Here's the Derby side of things. Cheryl says, surprisingly, we won. Tom says, smash and grab. For Middlesbrough, Daniel says, self-inflicted loss. Ben says, we beat ourselves. Careful. This was an interesting game. Derby had 3 shots to Middlesbrough's 20. Derby scored the only goal of the game after a poor back pass by Isaiah Jones. And look, they rode their luck a bit. I think that's fair to say. But having said that, I thought Derby defended superbly, Justin.
They did. I think it's worth pointing out that the 20 shots that Middlesbrough had, it was in varying distance. They did struggle to create some really clear cut chances.
Exactly, that's the point. That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely spot on. Paul Warne even said himself after the game, didn't he, that they sacrificed how they want to play under him a little bit, which did raise my eyebrows because that is exactly how I think Paul Warne wants to play. But not to take anything away from him or the win. They defended brilliantly. If you compare them to last weekend, for example, they were so poor against Blackburn, really open, but they were so organised here. It did feel like times that James Collins was playing central defensive midfield, but look, you've got a team there who's digging in, wanting that 3 points, desperate for that 3 points, and they showed it. You need that sort of grit and determination to do it. A lot of Middlesbrough chances were half chances, lots of shots from distance. Defensively, they were great. As I say, Derby, they do defend like that every week. They will get results. Forward play does need drastic improvement, but you're coming up against one of the team's strongest divisions in terms of quality players. Yes, it was always going to be a game like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're going to defend like that every week, because I'm not sure they'll have the opportunity to score in the first 20 minutes and then put 11 men behind the ball for the rest of the game. But look, people will look at Middlesbrough having 20 shots, and yes, they hit the post. Josh Vickers had to make a few saves in the Derby goal. But you are right, it wasn't like there was a golden chance that Middlesbrough had to be scoring. It was mostly half chances, and maybe it was a bit negative parking the bus for 70 minutes of the game, but it's ended up getting a massive win. And considering how poor they were at the back last week against Blackburn, this was exactly what they needed, because I think we both agree Derby aren't going to score many goals this season based off that attack, Justin. So keeping it tight at the back is their best chance of staying up, and they showed that they can do that here. So yeah, massive 3 points for Derby to get them off the mark for the season. Derby have a new signing, by the way. They brought in a 6'6" Swedish goalkeeper who wears a scrum cap, which I like. Very pro clubs. Jacob Whittle Zetterstrom is his name. He's got one cap for the Swedish national team. Are you excited by that, Justin?
I am. His last contribution for Djurgården in Sweden was a clanger, though, in the Europa Conference League. I also, it's what in my head, it's created a bit of a theory that I need to do a lot of research on. In that, I think goalkeepers who have model good looks aren't that good. I think the uglier the goalkeeper, the better they are.
Now you've got me thinking about it. I mean, the first person who comes to mind for me is Kasper Schmeichel. He was a very good-looking chap, very good goalkeeper.
He was, but I'm talking okay, Zalestro's not going to be world's best, but he's not going to be world's worst either.
Is he a good-looking bloke? I haven't actually seen a picture of him.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Is it?
Yes. Get on his Instagram. He's a handsome lad. He's a handsome lad. Very incredibly handsome. Well, too handsome to be playing football in a scrum cap, I can tell you that. But again, this is the level of insight and analysis you'll get from the second tier here. But goalkeepers,
I'm just looking at a picture of him now, Justin. He looks a bit like a high school heartthrob in a noughties chick flick, but he's not like Channing Tatum, looks as you were billing him.
Oh wow! I mean, I wouldn't have said Channing Tatum's high, but look, it's
really. Channing Tatum is a beautiful soul.
Soul might be, but we're talking model good looks here. I don't think Channing Tatum's
Are you
top of the billing.
Okay,
wow, incredible. Some recency bias from your Deadpool visit, I might add. But look, in terms of the goalkeeper sort of spectrum, I'm pinning it down. Manuel Neuer, Iker Casillas, Van der Sar, very normal looking. Oliver Kahn, incredibly ugly. Jens Lehmann, very ugly. Zalestrom, incredibly handsome. Could hold him back.
But Alisson at Liverpool.
Yeah, no, there are outliers. Don't get me wrong. There will be outliers in any formula.
Okay.
Alisson will be one of them. Likewise, there'll be an ugly goalkeeper who is no good as well.
Okay. Who's the most good-looking bloke on earth in your view?
Apart from me, I don't know. You're putting me on the spot here.
To be fair, you're a crap goalkeeper, so
I am a crap goalkeeper.
There you go.
I am genuinely terrible in goal.
Yeah. We'll have to test this theory out.
Yeah.
If anyone can think of any handsome goalkeepers, then please do let us know. We need to put Justin Peach to the test on this one. And Justin, we'll finish off the show with this team who are joint top of the league. Probably the one team that none of us expected to be top of the league after 2 games. It's Watford. They beat Stoke 3-0. And Justin, we made our predictions a couple of weeks ago. Of course, Watford not to do very well was one of those predictions. We also made our top goal scorer predictions, and neither of us said Ido Kiembe. So that's one in the eye for us, isn't it?
I did see a couple of people suggesting that Kiembe could be the next best striker in the Championship. He hits his shots very hard, and he did hit his shot very hard. Went straight through Johansson. But it's quite an incredible turn of events for Kiembe, who is not a prolific goal scorer at all. and is his division top goal scorer at the moment? Is that right?
Yeah, he's joint top goal scorer. Prior to the start of last season, he had scored 4 goals in 7 years, and now he's scored 3 goals in 2 games.
Kiembe. And he scored an Olympico last week straight from a corner. Incredible. Kiembe, golden boot. Let's get it on it.
Yeah, maybe it's a sign of things to come. It's not something that I had down to happen this season, but yeah, fair play to him. I've got to say, Justin, we gave Watford a bit of stick last week for winning 3-2 and being very lucky in the process. But against Stoke, I thought they were excellent. This was a sublime performance from Tom Cleverley's side.
Yeah, it was. It was a tight first half, which I think just it equates to Watford coming out of the traps in the second half and blowing Stoke away all the more incredible. Probably one of the most surprising scorelines of the weekend, actually, in how emphatic it was, because Watford did really, really come out. I think Stoke were okay in the first half. I wouldn't say it was scrappy, but it was certainly tight. So then, Watford's then come out really is a huge plus. Georgie Shakford as well, is realising his quality. He's been outstanding in the first 2 games, and I think Tom Cleverley getting that out of him, and maybe Shakford being the big the star of the midfield, if you like, I think is maybe being a positive for him. But yeah, you can't fault the performance. It was a great performance for Watford.
Oh, it definitely was. A lot has been made about the lack of investment in this squad over the summer, and I think it's undeniably still looking patchy. But there's still some good players in there. As you mentioned, Shakford is coming off the back of a fantastic Euros with Georgia, and these first 2 games has really shown that he is a quality player. Kiembe, is he going to keep scoring at this rate? I'll be a bit controversial here and say probably not, but his form has been fantastic. Ryan Andrews is a really, really good young player. He's someone I'm really excited to see more of this season. He got a goal against Stoke as well, so maybe that's more to come from him as well, and he can have a really good season. But I know, you know what, hats off to Tom Cleverley, considering he is such an inexperienced manager, having only managed 9 competitive games prior to this season. He's just told these Watford players the pressure's off and go out there, shackles are off, all of that. Just play, and that's what they've done so far. And they were fantastic against Stoke, as we say, a bit lucky against Millwall last week, but that's by the by. And looking ahead to what's left in the window for Watford, I imagine they will get players in. It looks like Yasser Asprilla is going to go. Wesley Hoyt, according to Tom Cleverley, might actually stay now, which is interesting. But maybe Watford can say no to the naysayers this season and actually have a decent season, Justin.
You'd hope so. And as I say, I'm very big on Tom Cleverley. I've rated him very highly pre-season, and I think I'd still rate him very highly because he's tactically he's very switched on, and in addition to that, he's he's clearly got the motivational skills, because this Watford squad, I know we're only 2 games in, but they scored 6 goals. That's very impressive, albeit 3 of them were very fortunate against Millwall, but they're still putting those chances away. So yeah, I think Tom Cleverley is slowly realising his potential as a manager, and you just hope, because Tom Cleverley himself has been saying it for weeks, that they've got players lined up, they're coming in. It's not his fault that they're not. The board need to back him, and that's what you're really asking for, because asking Cleverley and Watford to continue his performance levels with the squad they got is probably a little bit unrealistic, but while they're getting results is very important, because as I say, many tipped him to go down, including us.
Yeah, definitely. And Tom Cleverley can hopefully completely confound those expectations and have a good season with Watford, because the 11 games that he's had in charge, yes, it's only a very small sample size, but he's done really, really well, hasn't he? I don't think anyone can say that he hasn't. It's just still very early days, so you don't want to get too carried away. Justin, it's now time for the polls. This is the part of the show where we give the listeners 3 questions on Twitter, or X, because we want to get their thoughts and everything to do with the Championship. So the first question we asked was this: who's the bigger club, Sheffield United or Sheffield Wednesday? Just decided to casually start a civil war in our Twitter mentions. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll go Sheffield United. Because as I say, you got Sheffield Wednesday, who sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Does that make them a bigger club?
The recency bias would tell me it's Sheffield United, though. So maybe.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think historically Wednesday are a bigger club. But recently, Sheffield United have definitely had a lot more success. 60% of people said Sheffield Wednesday, 40% said Sheffield United. Who will finish highest this season? Middlesbrough, Sunderland, West Brom.
I thought you were going for a northeast theme there, then West Brom just sort of dropped in.
Just throw them in.
Yeah,
I just picked three teams who, I think some people are expecting to be in and around the top six this season. So why not?
You don't need to explain yourself, Ryan. Don't worry.
Well, you're throwing accusations at me. Come on then.
I could throw worse. Middlesbrough.
Yeah, we said Middlesbrough in our pre-season predictions, didn't we? So I'll stick with Middlesbrough for now. Yeah. Although people seem to have been very impressed with Sunderland after that win against Sheffield Wednesday. 50% of people said Sunderland, 32% said Middlesbrough, 18% said West Brom. And finally, what should our predictions forfeit be this season? We were talking about this on Friday. We need a new forfeit for Justin and I to have hanging over our heads for our predictions this coming season. And the two best ones we've come up with so far are wear a bra for an episode and be a mascot at a championship game. The bra, it's worth saying, we'd be doing episodes and putting Twitter clips out with no context whatsoever. So it just add that little bit more humiliation. But just which one would you least like to do out of them?
I'd least like to be a mascot, to be honest with you, because it's somewhat embarrassing, quite humiliating, and in addition to that, it's very humbling as well. Because there'll be children there that are better at football than me. So
there is that, yeah. Well, I guess this is it. I guess this is what we're doing for this season, Justin. 73% of people said be a mascot at a championship game.
There we go.
So there we go. Justin's going to be doing that next season.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you've lost the predictions for the last two seasons now. I don't see it ending anytime soon. My reign of terror will continue, I think, this season. But there we go. 73% of people have made the choice for us. That's what we're going to be doing as our forfeit for this season, ladies and gents. So those have been the polls. And just before we end today's show, we have a brand new feature here on the Second Tier Weekend Show, ladies and gentlemen. And we've been very excited to share this with you because every single Sunday from now on, we want to hear from you, the fans. And so we are giving you the chance to nominate your Jameson Weekend Hero. That's right, a fellow Championship fan that you believe deserves recognition. So it could be someone who just started a new supporters club where you live, or it could be someone who agreed to drive the minibus 300 miles to an away day. Something like that. Whatever it is, we want to find out. It's your chance to pay tribute to the absolute heroes you enjoy the football with. And you can make your nomination for next weekend's show right now by sending your voice note to us on WhatsApp. The number is in the show notes of this episode. The winner will receive a bottle of Jameson's delivered to your home so you can raise a glass with your nominee. And Justin, we're going to get things underway this weekend with our first ever weekend hero. Can you reveal who it is?
I certainly can. I'm nominating my dad, Dave, this week.
Ooh, someone you know well.
Someone I know very well. He's been a Derby fan his entire life. He's experienced the title wins in the 70s, all the way through to being on the brink of oblivion just a couple of years ago. He's renewed his season ticket once again, and like him, I think he represents what a football club truly means to an individual. His love for Derby County genuinely is unconditional. I could possibly rank it higher than me. Derby first, children, then whatever else. And much like anyone else who was introduced to their team by their dad, their mum, their uncle, or anybody else, your connection to your football club is created through them, and for that, I'm eternally grateful to my dad and everyone out there who has had that experience as well.
Oh, isn't that wholesome? That's a wholesome way to end the episode. So, Justin, let's raise a glass of Jameson Ginger and Lime to Justin's dad, Dave, who's also incredibly active on Instagram, by the way.
Very, very active. Yes. He loves a post, and if you like garden stuff and everything like that, he's the man for you.
This is really nice, by the way. That's really good.
Lovely. Yeah, it goes down very
Get
well.
used to that this season. Whenever I post a story on Instagram, it's always either my auntie in New Zealand who likes it first or Justin's dad. Happens every single time. So there we go. Justin's dad is the first entry into the Weekend Hero with Jameson's. And to hear your nomination on the show next week and win a bottle of Jameson, by the way, send us a voice note now on WhatsApp. The number is in the show notes. Just like Justin, all you need to do is explain who your nominee is and why they deserve to be named that week's Jameson Weekend Hero, all in 60 seconds. You must be over 18 to enter, UK only, and T's and C's apply. I'm looking forward to this, Justin, because we should get some really good ones over the season, shouldn't we? I would say the funnier the better.
The funnier the better, even wholesome. We love it. Get them in. People deserve a shout out, a bit of credit to them, and obviously a bottle of Jameson's as well.
Yeah. It would be a great way to honour that weekend hero in your life. Patreon subscribers, hang about, because we have got the extended edition of the weekend show coming up, which we like to call Zamora Time. We'll be talking about the building pressure on Daniel Farker at Leeds, Hull's signing spree, and Luton's Thomas Kaminski trying to commit double homicide. If you're not a Patreon subscriber, sign up to get Zamora Time every single Sunday. Head on over to patreon.com/second tier. Link is in the description of this episode. Otherwise, that's just about time up for us here on the second tier. We'll be back again on Thursday to talk about all the latest news in the Championship. Probably quite a bit of transfer news for us to go over by that point. So we look forward to seeing you then for that. But this has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.